Hello, welcome back to Naughty Boy Fight Picks. I'm your host, Todd. I'm doing my predictions video, doing it live because I've been having a nightmare with the internet. Hopefully it doesn't drop out while I'm doing this. Got Louis Tui sat 2 meters or 1 meter away from me. You can't see him, but wait, you can if I do this. Yeah, there he is. He's going to be helping me out today. He may add some insights. He may not. He might just sit there looking at fun shit on the internet. Let me know if this sounds all right. We got someone in here. But yeah, don't usually do this live. Another unsuccessful week with the gambling last week. That sucks shit. I was up and then going into the Lyman good fight. I had a play on him. And he got Damian mired. And, yeah, so I took another L. But not a bad one, just a little one. I'm confident in this week's picks. I feel like I'm going to get back up there. I just lost my dark green circle on betmma.tips. So I need to get that back and get back in the money so I can once again be the wealthiest man I know. Anything else to add? An exciting week. Obviously, the fights are here in Melbourne. I will be attending, as will Matt, of course. He obviously doesn't do these videos with me, but we'll have our preview show and the recap, and we're hoping to get some other content this week. We're looking to do a show with actual media member, a credentialed media member for UFC 234. So that'll be good. It'll bring some professionalism to things because we clearly lack in that department. What else? That's it. I think we can get into this card. First fight of the night. What do we got? Melbourne local Jimmy Crute taking on late replacement Sam Alvey. Jimmy Crute is 8-0. Sam Alvey 33-11. Crute came into the UFC. Had his debut against Paul Craig, a pretty tough fight back and forth. Craig looks like quite the physical specimen, so yeah, not the worst performance from Crute, but also I think from some of my brother and other people in the community here know this guy. Am I disconnected? Motherfuck. Okay, I think we're good. That may we'll see how we go. Alvey, obviously a pretty one-dimensional guy. He's got power in that left hand, and he looks to land counter punches with that big left hand. He will throw some low kicks, but his pace is very low, and he just looks to crack dudes. Pretty easy shit to game plan for, but we seen him get some knockout and some decision wins, but not over great opponents. I think Crute is tough enough and young enough to be able to come in and put a pace on Alvey that he won't be able to handle. Crute's strong in all areas. He's got nice striking. He's got good grappling and a submission game. And I fancy him to win this fight. I've put a got a play on Crute there and fancy him to get the win, probably via finish. Don't know whether that'll be a submission or a knockout, but we shall see. Moving on to the next fight of the night. Really looking forward to friend of the podcast and training partner, my brother Matt's, and my brother has cornered Cal in a few of his fights. Callan Potter making his long-awaited, well-deserved UFC debut against the young prospect Jaylen Turner, the Tarantula. Callan Potter, record of 16-7. Jaylen Turner, 6-4. Cal's record, he'd never been to decision until his very last fight. So very much an action fighter, always in exciting fights, win or lose. Prior to that decision when he just got over BJ Bland, he had lost to Martin Howard. He got heel hooked very early by Martin Howard, which has happened to a lot of people. And prior to that, he had an 8-fight win streak with all 8 wins coming by way of finish. So a mixture of knockouts and submissions, mostly submissions. Cal's black belt training out of Renegade MMA, where we do some training, and also his striking coach is Andy Colgrave from the Ring Gym, where we also do some training there. Great gyms. If you're a Melbourne local, I suggest you check them out and go kick someone's head off. As for Jaylen Turner, what do we got here? Turner has had a interesting. He's 6-4. Just bringing up his. In his UFC debut, he came up against Vicente Luque, which is fucking tough. Luque's a very difficult opponent for your first UFC fight. I should talk about Jaylen Turner's frame. He's 6'3" at lightweight. That's kind of insane. Sherdog's saying he's 7-4. Turner's only 23. Man, my browser has been a fight. I'm sorry. Yeah, so he had that loss to Vicente Luque. I believe on Contender Series before that, he via doctor's stoppage. I thought Turner began to gas even in the first round, which could be attributed to a very big man doing a very big weight cut. So something to look for there. All his victories are first round victories. Anytime he has gone past the first round, he has lost the fight. So I think that could be a big factor. He's very experienced. He's gritty. I've seen him oftentimes get hurt in a fight and then come back to win. He's familiar with Av. I think all those things are going to play into his favor here. Turner, whilst having some amazing offense weapons with that length and speed, he also has some defensive holes. He's susceptible to hooks. Cal throws some nice hooks. And I think, yeah, if Cal can get this to the ground, that's his world. He's a very experienced grappler, and he can definitely lock up a submission. So I'm picking Callan Potter here via submission. Being a friend, I had to place a bet on him as well. And fuck, I would have anyway. I like him as the dog here. He's a pretty heavy underdog. So fancy Cal Potter by submission. People may have only watched his most recent fight. If you have, I would encourage you to go look at some of his other stuff. His most recent fight was not his best showing, and there's some reasons for that I'm not at liberty to discuss, but yeah, valid reasons. So worth looking into his other performances and then making a decision whether you want to bet that fight or not. Next fight of the night, another one I'm quite excited about, just purely because I get to see Lando Vannata fight live. I'm a big fan, although he hasn't had much success lately. He's taking on UFC debutant Marcus Rosa. Interesting signing to the UFC. The only thing I can really think is that he's been brought in to get Lando Vannata a win and get him back on track. Or, yeah, I can't really make much sense of it because looking into this guy's record, 6-4, the wins aren't against great opponents, and it was really difficult to find tape on him. So actually get to look at any tape of Rosa. But having said that, I just think level of competition here will be too much for him, and I fancy Vannata to win by KO. Not going to bet that, obviously, because I haven't watched any tape on Rosa, but the pick is Vannata by KO, Groovy Lando. I wish he would come out to I'm So Groovy by Future instead of his current walkout song, which I forget the name of. Next fight of the night, we have Wuliji Buren versus Jonathan Martinez. Buren, 10-6, fighting out of China. Martinez, 9-2, fighting out of the United States. What do we got here? Yeah, so Buren is 0-2 in the UFC. Lost his last fight via KO to Marlon Vera, and lost in his debut a decision against Rolando D. He looked pretty good against Vera in parts, mainly when he was pressuring, but he looked pretty uncomfortable when Vera was applying the pressure back. He appears to have a decent grappling game, decent stand-up. He's got a nice right hand. Saw him get some takedowns in that fight, but he would lose control quickly or not do much with the takedown. Got to imagine here that Buren is fighting for a spot in the UFC, having 2 losses and no wins. That could be a motivating factor for him here. As for Martinez, he's 9-2, 0-1 in the UFC. He's very young. His debut fight was against Sukmantov, who I think everyone knows now is a really good striker, but has terrible fight IQ. He got dropped in that fight in the first round, but he showed some heart. He got a takedown, showed some good control and ground and pound. I think both guys here are going to be fighting for their spot in the UFC, and both, well, at least for their first UFC win. I think both guys will feel like it's a winnable fight for them. I feel like this fight is closer than the line would suggest, and that one could be a live dog. I'm actually picking him to win a decision here, but I will not bet this fight because, yeah, I can't trust Buren to get the win, but I do fancy him to get the decision. Next fight of the night, we have Teruto Ishihara versus Kyung Ho Kang. Ishihara fighting out of Japan, Ho Kang out of South Korea, obviously. Where are we? Just got to keep checking that this stream's working because, oh yeah, appears to be going all good. Where are we? Ho Kang 14-8. He's 3-2 in the UFC, won no contest. It appears he recently returned from military service. That's what I suppose, because he had a few-year break between fights. Went to a split decision with Ricardo Ramos in his last bout. Watching the tape on that prior to the weekend, worthy, and still do. Ramos is a good fighter. I think he just had a bad night out on the weekend, got hit early, and just didn't have anything from that point. It was like a deer in headlights. So make of that what you will. I think Ho Kang is more competitive than Ishihara with the better guys in this division. He's a level up. I think he can get Ishii down and lock up a submission. Ishihara's 10-6. He's 3-4-1 in the UFC. He's only won 1 of his last 5 fights and lost his last 2. He hasn't really beaten anyone notable in his career. I think he's still training out of Team Alpha Male, a team that seems to be in a spot of bother recently. And Ishihara has big holes in the striking defense and in the ground game. So I fancy Ho Kang here to get him to the ground and get a submission win. Next fight of the night, another one I'm very excited about for obvious reasons. New Zealand's own Kai France versus Raulian Paiva. Kai with a record of 17-7 and Paiva 17-1. Our show dog actually says Paiva has a record of 18-1, so it looks very impressive, but not when you dig a bit deeper. Paiva's only 23. Most of his wins have come by decision against questionable opposition. He won a split decision on the Contender Series, so strange to see him get a contract after that. They're usually looking for guys that get finishes, not split decisions. Might have been a good fight. I did watch it, but I can't remember. He's on a 12-fight win streak. Yeah, his opponent on Contender Series I thought was pretty average. Paiva slowed significantly in the very first round of that fight, which is not good for a 125er. And from that point, he looked very sloppy and hittable. Interesting to watch, given that there's not much KOs on his record, because he fights like a power puncher. Like, he tries to bomb on his opponent, winning hooks. And I think that's part of the reason why you see him tire in his fights quite early on. But his record wouldn't indicate that he is a power puncher. And he is coming up against a legit power puncher in Kai Kara-France in this bout here. Kai has won 11 of his last 12 fights. 8 of those 11 wins have come by knockout. His debut a few months ago in the UFC, great performance there. He battled some adversity and got a pretty, I think he got dropped once or twice, but apart from that, the fight was pretty one-sided in Kai's favor. Coming out of city kickboxing, I think it's a big advantage for Kai here. He's training with some top guys in the UFC. That gym went, I believe, 9-1 in the UFC last year, so one of the better records for all gyms competing in the UFC. And their ability to game plan, execute a game plan, I think pretty brilliant. And having the two teammates on the same card, I think is going to be great for all the city kickboxing guys fighting on this card. Yeah, I really think Kai's going to run through this guy. Paiva likes to be a pressure fighter, but I think Kai will be the one dictating things here, being the sharper striker, more disciplined, and with more power. And I think once he lands something, it could be over, or at least Paiva will be out of his depth and will start backing up, and they'll allow Kai to do his thing. He's obviously got that real heavy overhand right, and I imagine that's going to land several times, and we'll see Kai get a KO. And I'm thinking pretty early, perhaps even in the first round. So that is the pick there. What's next? Next fight of the night, Montana De La Rosa versus Nadia Kassem. Kassem, the local fighter here, she's 5-0. Her first 4 opponents, to her credit, she KO'd them all and very quickly, but they do have a combined record of 0-11, so not one win between them. She missed weight on her debut versus Alex Chambers. I can't remember if that was a short notice call-up or not, but either way, she missed weight. In that fight, she looked really bad when she was getting backed up. She'd have her head way up in the air and some questionable footwork. It just looked like inexperience, really. And that fight altogether, we know Alex Chambers has a pretty terrible record. But, yeah, it was just a bad fight and was not UFC caliber fighting. As for De La Rosa, she showed she's at that level, I think. She's 9-4. She's submitted her first 2 UFC opponents. And in her last 11 fights, she only has losses to Cynthia Calvillo and Mackenzie Dern. Yeah, I just think De La Rosa is going to be a level above Kassem here. Kassem has showed some ground game in her debut, but I think De La Rosa is going to be able to get her to the ground and lock up a sub. So picking De La Rosa by submission in that fight. Next fight of the night, another one I'm very excited about. Another Kiwi, Shane Young, going up against Austin Arnett. Arnett is 16-5. He's a very tall featherweight. He lost on Contender Series to Brandon Davis and then went on to drop his first 2 UFC fights. He got his first UFC win in his last fight versus Humberto Bandenay, and what I thought was a pretty uninspiring performance. He had this terrible habit of moving into striking range without throwing anything or feinting. He'd just kind of charge into the pocket, and he got hit quite a lot doing that. Arnett also likes to fight when he's at range with his hands way down by his side. I think that could be dangerous for him here. As for Young, he's 12-4. He's won 6 of his last 7. I think he's only 24, 25 years old, so improving all the time. That loss, the only loss of his last 7 fights, is against Alexander Volkanovski, and that was Young's UFC debut, which he took on 8 days' notice, and he went to decision there. So kind of notable. In that fight, he showed some really good takedown defense. He actually scored a takedown on Volkanovski in the 3rd round. It was a pretty one-sided fight, but I think we learned a lot about Shane Young in that fight. He's really tough. He's got good instincts. He's durable. He took some pretty huge shots from Volkanovski, and we've seen the power of Volkanovski in the UFC. He fucking ran through Chad Mendes just recently. Yeah, and I think the commentary on his second fight, they're talking about how Shane Young was treating his second fight like his debut. He came out, he looked different, like just his countenance from the beginning of that fight, before the fight started, looked like a very focused, hungry guy. Came out with beautiful feints, a nice jab, good counters. His right hand was money all throughout that fight, kept landing it. He had real nice timing on his takedown entries. Would not always get the takedown, but still used them well. And much like Kai, I think the gym he trains out of, who his training partners are, the game planning there, strategizing, are all going to play into his favor. I expect to see an even better version of Shane Young in this fight than last time we saw him out. I think he's young and vastly improving and training with very high-level guys. So, yeah, I think he's going to beat Arnett with some relative ease here. Arnett's pretty hittable, and Young is pretty sharp and precise. So I'm picking Young to get a KO here, perhaps in the second or third round. Very excited for that fight. Next fight of the night, we have Devonte Smith up against Dong Hyung Kim, or Dong Hyung Ma, as he is now known, because he's not the other Dong Hyung Kim, the stun grenade, or whatever he's called. He's Dong Hyung Kim, the maestro. Just looking for my notes here. Where the fuck are they? Okay, so Hyung Ma is 16-8. He's had 5 UFC fights, lost his first 2, and since then has won his last 3 fights. He's got nice, sharp striking, mixes up the targets well. He's got a nice jab. His last win went to a split decision, but I thought it was a pretty comfortable win over Damian Brown. Very tough guy. Perhaps not the most talented, but definitely very tough. Before that fight, he starched and aged Takanori Gomi very quickly. Hyung Ma has looked like recently he's making adjustments to his game. He's fighting less wild, a bit smarter, picking his shots better, and maintaining range well, which is good to see. As for Devonte Smith, he's 9-1. He has 8 KOs, kind of famously now among the betting community. About 3 or 4 fights ago, he was KO'd by John Gunther, which is very concerning. Gunther is one of the worst strikers I've ever seen. We're having a little chuckle over there. You got to see this dude, John Gunther, man. He's a fucking lunatic. Yeah, Smith really hasn't fought anyone good. It's quite typical of a lot of these Contender Series guys coming in. A lot of first-round finishes and whatnot. Smith has never been to decision. He's obviously very fast and powerful, but I think he's very untested. I'm liking Hyung Ma as the dog here. I think he'll sit back, maintain range, look to counter an aggressive Smith, and catch him there. I think experience could play a massive role here. Hyung's pretty crafty. So, yeah, I'm picking Hyung Ma with a second-round finish here. And that's another fight I got to play on. I will get into all my bets once I've gone through the card, which is soon. Next fight of the night could be a fun one. Number 15th ranked bantamweight, Honey Yahya versus Ricky Simon. Simon, 14-1. His only ever loss was by submission, interestingly enough. He's on a 7-fight win streak. 2 of those wins have come in the UFC. Yeah, in total he has 7 finishes and 7 decisions, so it goes to decision quite a lot. But he's got a relentless wrestling game, but not the greatest at mounting offense or controlling the fight once he has the takedown. As for Yahya, he's 26-9. He has 20 submission wins. He's a world Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion, been in the UFC since 2011, and has amassed a 14-3 record in the UFC, which is really good, really strong. I think he's only really lost to some quite high-level guys. And Yahya has won his last 3 fights in a row by submission. Both these guys like to grapple, wondering if Simon will try and keep this fight standing, thinking he has an advantage there. But yeah, I can't see this fight not going to the ground at some point. And I really like Yahya's chance of getting a submission. I don't think Simon is going to knock him out. So pick there, Honey Yahya by submission. And I got a play on the prop bet there. Last time out was against Sanders. I think it was against Luke Sanders, and I cashed some bets on Honey Yahya to win by submission. So looking to do that again. I trust that guy. Next fight of the night, interesting one, was 6th ranked middleweight Israel last style winner Adesanya versus number 15th ranked middleweight Anderson the Spider Silva. Well regarded by many or some as the GOAT. Anderson Silva, formerly the record holder of most title defenses. Strange matchup here, but kind of fun. I guess it could go a bunch of ways. Like Israel could clip him early and it could be all over and it will be kind of sad. Or it could be an interesting, fun fight. I think, yeah, it's hard not to imagine Israel smoking him. He is a better technical striker than Silva ever was. And he is faster, younger. He's fighting for something. I'm not too sure what Silva's fighting for these days. He does, like, I've seen some videos leading up to the fight, and Silva looks happy and kind of, I don't know, like he's enjoying the process and wants to be there. So maybe that's positive. But, yeah, I just think he's too old. He's slowed down a lot. His last, man, he hasn't had a really good performance in a really fucking long time. So it's hard to imagine him pulling one out here. And when you think of what Israel's been doing in the UFC and the massive improvements between fights in such a short space of time, I just can't. Like, the sport is fucking crazy, but I just can't see Silva getting a win here. So, oh, you're slightly in picture, Louis. Doing weird shit with your eyes. So yeah, the pick here is Israel to get a win by knockout. But either way, I'm stoked I get to see Anderson Silva fight live. Israel, I've seen him fight live before, but not in the UFC, so that's really exciting as well. And you may have noticed that I've picked all the city kickboxing guys to get knockout wins here. And I might put a little degenerate play on a parlay for all 3 of them to get knockouts and get rich if it comes in. That brings us to the main event of the evening. We have the champion, Robert the Reaper Whittaker, or as he should go by, I think it was dubbed by the not heavy hands guys, co-main event guys, Bobby Knuckles versus number 4 ranked Kelvin Gastelum. Whittaker with a record of 21-4, Gastelum with a record of 16-3. I've seen quite a few people favoring Gastelum or betting Gastelum in this fight. I'm a little confused by that. I just think, I don't know, man. I think this is one of those things where Whittaker is a little bit underrated. I mean, those 2 fights against Yoel, like, Yoel is a fucking hard opponent. He's had hard fights with Yoel and come out on top, and both of them with injuries. And man, Whittaker's tough. He's skilled. He's talented. I wonder if the reason people are fancying Gastelum is because Gastelum's also welter coming up to middle. He's probably faster than the guys Whittaker's been facing recently, but I don't know. I just still think Whittaker's levels and better in all areas. Gastelum obviously like punches. Yeah, if he does land some shots, we're seeing Whittaker like take Yoel's shots, and I think Yoel power than Gastelum. Just having a quick look at Whittaker's record here. this is also a big factor that makes me confident in him winning. I think he's won his last 8 fights, and some of those opponents, obviously the 2 fights over Yoel, wins over Jacare, Derek Brunson, just a bunch of like pretty tough opponents. Rafael Natal, Uriah Hall, Brad Tavares, Clint Hester. Wait, is it more than an 8 fight win streak? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 wins in a row for Whittaker. If we go to Gastelum's record, it's not that flash. He has recent wins over Bisping and a hard-fought win, a really good fight with Jacare that he got a decision win in. But prior to that, he had the submission loss to Weidman. And, yeah, I don't know. I just don't see Gastelum getting it done. When was the last time he had a knockout victory? Oh, Bisping, of course. But that was, of course, straight after Bisping had lost the fight to GSP. And, yeah, man, you look back a while. I know it was at a different division, but Gastelum has a loss to Neil Magny, which doesn't look good on your record. Went to a split with Tyron Woodley in 2015. That's interesting. But, yeah, I can't see Gastelum getting it done here. I think Whittaker's the much better fighter in all areas. So I'm picking Whittaker, and no, Gastelum's tough. Might be a decision win for Robert Whittaker. So that's the pick there. Quickly get into and look at my picks and plays for this card before I fuck off and do something with my life. What should I do with my life, Louis? Meth. Full of sage advice, is my friend Louis. The smart guy. You guys should get in touch with him if you want some life advice. All right. So I just learned this page here. I can't believe the internet's held up. It's a fucking Christmas miracle, my G. Plays for this card. Fucking. Why is my browser being so useless? Is it because I'm running the live chat? All right. So I got 4 units on Jimmy Crute, who's paying $1.77. I got 2 units on Callan Potter, who is paying $3.10, and I got a couple units on Don Hyung Kim, who's paying $2.85. Parlays, I've got some overlapping with previous and future events. So I've got Gillespie and Walker, who have already come in to parlayed with Adesanya and Whittaker. Then I got Adesanya parlayed with Rivera and Felder for the following events fights. Then I've got the City Kickboxing parlay. Had to do it. I would recommend you do too. Adesanya, Cutter France, and Young all to win. Then I've got Adesanya, De La Rosa from this card with Vicente Luque for next week. Parlay. Then I've got Adesanya, De La Rosa, and Kyung Ho Kang to win. Then I got a little 1 unit play on Yahya to win by submission. And then I got the long shot degenerate play on Kai Cutter France and Shane Young, both to win by TKO, KO parlay together. The odds for that I got at $20. So if that comes in, it's a good Sunday and we're going out drinking. That's about it for me. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Join us for the live chat after the event if we're able to pull it off, because we're going to be in the city, so I might need to find hopefully someone with a hotel or something. We'll do it there. But check in for all the content we're going to have this week and join us for the live chat. And yeah, we got some exciting things coming soon. So yeah, follow the Instagram. We've got an Instagram now. I'm working on the Facebook page, just very lazy, and I have a lot of other shit to do because, you know, life. But thank you for joining, and we'll see you soon. Shot. Good luck with your money.